Why did God make boys smell bad? So blind girls wouldn't fuck 'em either. Radicalization's a bit of a worry, innit? But lately it's not been a worry so much about Islamic radicalization as it has been about right-wing radicalization, and given the scholarship that we've seen about so-called influence networks and right-wing radicalization and so on, kind of makes me doubt the scholarship about Islamic radicalization. But yeah, there's an idea out there somehow that people are just being bullied into being Nazis, and it's become a bit of a meme.
Just a meme, 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 just a meme. Or maybe that is just a meme.
Here's one typical example of this.
My God, these Trump people are racist.
That attitude is what's pushing me to be a racist.
Say what?
Might as well. You say I'm a Nazi, so fine. I'll be a Nazi if that makes you happy.
It doesn't?
I bought this Waffen SS uniform for Halloween. You're quite offensive, so maybe I'll just wear it every day. I just hate to do this. I feel bullied, really. Yeah, funny and all, but some people seem to take this seriously, and it really doesn't reflect the actual situation that we find going on. It's not that people are being bullied into being right-wing exactly, but that there's a breaking point at the end of a long process. And the attitude expressed in this cartoon seems to be used by people on the pseudo-left to abrogate themselves of responsibility for pushing people into the right wing. And they continue to blame other things like the supposed influence networks and pipelines and all the rest of it. And this just doesn't reflect the reality of the situation. I think it's far more down to other factors. We're all aware by this point, I think, of echo chambers. That's when you only associate with people who agree with you, and you only communicate with people who agree with you. You cut off everyone who might disagree with you, and this tends to devolve into a kind of purity spiral until you only communicate with people who pretty much 100% agree with you. And there are studies on radicalization which are more credible that demonstrate that if you're in that kind of insular group, people's views tend to move towards the more radical end of that spectrum. And I think we can see that in terms of Islamic extremism, right-wing extremism, and left-wing extremism, the kind of social justice warrior mentality. And I think this has been accelerated and exacerbated by social media. There's another effect which I've talked about and I haven't really seen other people pick up on, but this is the idea of the echo prison. That's not where you're choosing to lock yourselves into people who agree with you, but where this condition is imposed upon you from outside. So you might be 80% in line with someone else, but then you express a point of view that they don't agree with, and they block you, ban you, stop communicating with you, defriend you, unperson you, whatever else, over this one particular thing that you maybe just simply have a more nuanced position on. And so even if you're reaching out to try and communicate with people who don't agree with you, you just end up being pushed out of those areas anyway, unable to have conversations with these people, unable to have discussions with these people, and so you end up placed in an echo prison in which you're only exposed to the points of view similar to an echo chamber, and so tend over time to become more extreme. And the bullying is kind of a factor. People think they're justified in being racist towards white people because they feel that they have encountered racism from white people all their lives, and so they feel this is justified and there is a license to be racist towards white people. And this is even licensed by academia, seeking to redefine terms like racism, sexism, and all the rest of it. But if that kind of bad treatment somehow justifies the backlash behaviour, then imposing that treatment on others, be they white, male, cisgender, heterosexual, whatever, yeah, that resentment does build up, and if it justifies it in your circumstance, why doesn't it justify it in theirs? And this is a matter of emotions and feeling and personal experience. So their feelings of being victimized and bullied and whatever are just as valid as yours. The irony, of course, here being that the far right has created a victim narrative while simultaneously disparaging the victim narrative on the left. Now, I use these scare quotes for a reason, because I don't think the modern left has much of anything to do with traditional left-wing philosophy, universalist values and all the rest of it, but here is the big secret behind the rising success of the right and the further right, if not necessarily the far right. They're willing to have the conversation. They're willing to discuss with people. They're willing to debate. They're willing to fight over their ideas, but through those ideas, through their flawed reasoning. Whereas people on the left and the pseudo-left don't seem to be willing to even have the conversation. So more and more people are being exposed to right-wing ideas, conservative ideas, far-right ideas, and they're not receiving the information on the other side of the spectrum so much. And if they even so much as listen, even debate, even argue with someone on the right, they in turn get accused of being fascistic or fascist enablers or so on. This whole no platforming thing has just horrendously backfired, because by ceding the field to the opposition, you're allowing them the opportunity to win. Now, I'm an old school lefty, extremely liberal in all my views, yet I constantly get accused of being right-wing, and it does wear on you. And the people who talk to me constantly, all the time, tend to be more right-wing. I think it's remarkable that I haven't slid to the right in the way that certain other figures certainly have. Sargon. But I haven't. That's kind of interesting. I don't really know why. But I think I can understand why plenty of people have slid to one degree or another to the right. And that's because the right are the people talking to them, listening to them, who don't necessarily misrepresent their views and so on. Gamergate was never right-wing, never the genesis of the alt-right. The conservatives who came into it, like Milo Yiannopoulos, did so to try and exploit it, but they were also the only people really who were actually listening and presenting the point of view that Gamergate was expressing. You know, and that buys people's loyalty to an extent. It makes them more likely to listen to things that you're willing to say, going to say, things that you want to project to them. What should have happened if people wanted to avoid this alleged radicalization that perhaps has happened to some small degree, they should have been willing to discuss and talk. Yeah, that should have been that lesson then, and with similar incidents since, but it hasn't been learned. So what does that shit joke I told at the beginning have to do with any of this? Well, it's an altered joke. I took it from the repertoire of Bernard Manning, who was a profoundly racist and sexist old-school comedian in Britain, who, you know, kept his act going, though he was taken off television and so on, you know, pretty much right up until his death, telling these kind of jokes in working men's clubs in the North. And the original joke went something like this: "Why do gobmate packies stink? So the blind can hate 'em and all." Excruciatingly, horribly racist, and you probably cringed, if not at my accent, at the content of the joke, right? But you probably didn't react in the same way, with the same visceral disgust, when I told the version at the start. So take that response and consider that men, that white people, that cisgender people, that heterosexual people, who by and large have accepted that racism, sexism, homophobia and all the rest of it isn't acceptable, now find themselves bombarded day in, day out with jokes and pseudo-academic papers, news reports and so on, blaming them constantly for everything, making them the butt of every joke, treating them like shit in the same way that, yeah, their horrible racist, sexist, homophobic ancestors probably treated other people. If one's wrong, then the other is wrong. If your anger towards racist, sexist, homophobic material is justified, then so is people's negative reaction to when you do it. It's a combination of that hypocrisy and the willingness of the right to talk to people, many of whom are now bitter and resentful, that's given them their success. So my appeal would be for consistency and conversations, and have the arguments. And my door is always open to people, left or right, whatever you call yourself, to come and talk to me. But it tends to be only the conservatives and the right that ever take up that offer. And that's very, very sad. And counterproductive. Zang.
The gallows is cold and the gibbet is lonely. We'll make things hot for you here. The gallows is cold and the gibbet is lonely. We'll make things hot for you, Joni, my dear.
Or maybe this is all just a meme.